Disclaimer: this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Always do your own research or consult a licensed financial professional before making investment decisions. When we talk about investing for the next 10 years, we're really talking about one thing: growth. Not what's hot this month, not what's trending on social media, but what sectors and technologies will define the next decade. And if you're not the type of person who wants to pick individual stocks, growth ETFs may be one of the most powerful tools you can use. They give you instant diversification, access to top companies, and exposure to innovation without needing to predict which company becomes the next giant. Today, we're breaking down some of the best growth ETFs positioned for the long term, especially in technology, innovation, artificial intelligence, and global disruption. Before diving into specific ETFs, it's important to understand what actually makes an ETF a growth ETF. Growth ETFs usually focus on companies reinvesting profits back into expansion. Rather than paying dividends, they tend to be more volatile, more exposed to tech and innovation, and often carry a higher risk-reward profile compared to broad market ETFs. But over a 10-year period, especially if you believe in the long-term rise of technology, these can be incredibly powerful. Let's start with one of the most well-known, QQQ, also known as the Nasdaq 100 ETF. This ETF holds the largest non-financial companies on the Nasdaq, meaning it's loaded with tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and Meta. Over the last decade, QQQ has outperformed the S&P 500 by a wide margin, and it remains a strong candidate for long-term growth, simply because it captures the company's leading AI, cloud computing, semiconductors, and digital transformation. If you believe tech will continue dominating the global economy, QQQ is the classic choice. But if you want something even more focused on pure innovation, ARKK, the ARK Innovation ETF, is a completely different approach. ARKK invests in disruptive technologies, things like artificial intelligence, genomic research, autonomous vehicles, robotics, and fintech. It's much more volatile than traditional ETFs and has gone through massive ups and downs, but its purpose isn't stability. It's exposure to industries that could explode in the next decade. ARKK isn't for everybody, but if you have a high risk tolerance and a long time horizon, it's a speculative growth option worth watching. Now, let's talk about a more balanced growth play, VUG, the Vanguard Growth ETF. This ETF provides broad exposure to large-cap growth companies across the US economy, not just tech. It includes companies in communication services, consumer tech, industrial innovation, and healthcare. VUG is known for being low-cost, diversified, and significantly less volatile than ARK while still delivering strong long-term performance. If you want steady exposure to growth without extreme swings, VUG is one of the strongest long-term choices. For global exposure, there's IWWO or similar MSCI World Growth ETFs. These ETFs track growth companies not only in the US, but across Europe, Asia, and emerging markets. This can be important because the next decade of growth may not come exclusively from the US. Companies in Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and even parts of Southeast Asia are becoming essential players in semiconductor manufacturing, automation, and renewable energy. A global growth ETF allows you to benefit from long-term global innovation without trying to pick which country leads next. Speaking of semiconductors, it's impossible to talk about the next 10 years without mentioning chips. And that brings us to SMH or SOXX, to ETFs focused specifically on the semiconductor industry. These ETFs invest in companies like Nvidia, AMD, Taiwan Semiconductor, Broadcom, and ASML companies, literally powering artificial intelligence, cloud computing, electric vehicles, and even military technology. Every innovation in the next decade requires chips, and semiconductor ETFs give you direct exposure to the backbone of everything digital. They are volatile, yes, but historically extremely strong performers. Another massive trend is clean energy and electrification. The ICL ETF, which focuses on global clean energy companies, gives exposure to solar, wind, lithium, hydrogen, and renewable technology, as governments around the world invest heavily into clean energy infrastructure. Renewable energy ETFs may see steady long-term growth. It's not a get-rich-quick sector, but it's a structural trend that continues to accelerate globally. Now, if you want to bet directly on the rise of artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics, the BOTZ ETF or Robo ETF offer targeted exposure to companies building advanced robotic systems, machine learning hardware, industrial automation tools, and AI-powered software. Everything from factory robotics to autonomous systems relies on these technologies. And as labor costs rise, automation becomes even more essential. This is a long-term growth trend that's just getting started. Something many beginners overlook is the importance of diversification across growth themes. Instead of betting on just tech or just AI, the smartest long-term investors combine different growth ETFs. For example, a simple portfolio might include QQQ for megacap tech, VUG for broad growth exposure, SMH for chips, and bots for robotics. Over 10 years, this spreads your exposure across multiple innovation trends without needing to guess which one grows fastest. Finally, remember that even the best growth ETFs come with higher volatility. There will be dips, there will be corrections. But if your timeline is truly long-term, if you rate thinking in decades instead of months, growth ETFs remain one of the most powerful compounding tools available. Innovation doesn't move in a straight line, but it moves relentlessly forward. And if you want to stay ahead of the next decade of investing, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment what topic you want next, and turn on notifications. We post new videos every single day to help you build your financial future.